very interesting. But yeah, again, thank you for taking time out of your days to come meet little old me. I do appreciate it. As you know, my name is Bryan Benson, CEO at Aurum. My background is very varied, actually. I consider myself coming from the traditional finance background, so I did work at Morgan Stanley, but I've done a lot of other things in between there as well. You know, I worked in oil and gas tech for a while. I built a startup in the early 2000s in the United States that was a software that could analyze mortgage-backed security ETFs. And so this was a pretty cool project that I sold to a bank. So yeah, I've been really intrigued my whole life by finance. I just thought, you know, money, what's cooler than that, you know? And so I've sort of been trying to understand the technology of money most of my life. When I grew up in Peru, Peru had hyperinflation. So at one point, woke up one day, 6 zeros were chopped off. Less than 2 years later, 3 more zeros chopped off. So I've seen some of these things, you know, firsthand since I was a kid, how the differences in access to money basically can really shape cultures and shape people. So I've been working on these kinds of things, I think, my whole life, but really from the crypto and from the digital asset standpoint since 2017. So that's when I got into Bitcoin. Was the first thing that I started doing. I started buying arbitrage. So it all started with a sort of a joke from a friend of mine. He said, "You go to Bogota every month. The Bitcoin's really cheap there. Bring cash. Let's buy the Bitcoin." So I was like, "What do you mean?" You know, this was 2017, and so I bought $8,000 on the plane. We went to this little hole in the wall. We gave the money to the people. We got this what I considered to be an email at that time. You know, in this thing, I'm like, oh, now I have $8,000 dollars worth of Bitcoin here. But then when I sold it, I made 8% without doing anything, and I was like, okay, this is fun. You know, this part's nice. You know, so I kept doing that, and opened a small arbitrage trading desk in 2017. Then in 2018, I kind of upped my ante a little bit, and I started trading futures, which in hindsight was not the easiest thing. I was a futures trader at Morgan Stanley, but the risk parameters and the way that the candles operate in crypto is just totally different. So I had a very difficult learning, curve, I guess you could say, but was successful in the end and figured out how to do it. So yeah, those are the first two sort of things I did in crypto, and then I decided this technology is here to stay. So I'm gonna dive into the sort of the back end side of it and start to understand how the blockchains work, why people choose different ones, what's the benefits, what's the risks, what's the parameters, how these things work. So I started working on a project in Colombia, where I live in Colombia. So if you hear me say Colombia a lot, that's why, because I live down there. But there's a regional bank called Davivienda, and they were doing a POC in their innovation department. And I became a part of the team, and I was the blockchain guy, and we did a payment app, a proof of concept inside the bank, but a payment app that worked on Algorand, which is a layer 1 blockchain. So that was sort of my first foray into building on blockchains, and I was really lucky because I had some amazing partners inside the bank who were also really, you know, highly tech, highly sort of crypto native people as well that had the banking experience, but also had the blockchain side of it. So that was my first sort of entrepreneurial inside crypto, other than my trading desks, and it went well. We got the POC out there. It worked. It never went live inside the bank, but the project worked inside the bank. And during that time, I was recruited by Binance, so I filled out a survey, and they sent me an email, and they said, hey, would you be interested in interviewing for the process of becoming the director of Colombia? And I said, yeah, I got a lot of other things I'm doing, but I used Binance at the time, so I was like, yeah, this is cool. Let's talk to Binance. So 8 interviews later, and almost 8 months, 7.5 months later, I got hired as the director of Colombia, became the director of the Latin American region 3 months later, so I was promoted fairly quickly. And yeah, the time at Binance was amazing. End of 2019 to 2022. Really kind of consider it a master's degree in crypto, because I was, on the ground floor. I was one of the leaders of one of the businesses units, I guess you could say, inside of Binance, and launched some amazing products. Really had a wonderful time there, and learned so much. But the P2P product at Binance was probably the most successful product that we've launched there, because it's still widely used in a lot of markets where there's not a lot of good on and off ramps, and people can't send it to their bank or can't send from their bank in. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background. I left in 2022, like I said, and I've been working mostly as an advisor and a C-level sort of executive in 4 or 5 other projects since I left Binance. And I've been with Aurum since February. So I came over to Aurum in February after 3 months of being recruited, I guess you could say, by one of the founders and by the network director. And I was very hesitant to do it because I've never done network marketing, and I was very, and still am very skeptical about network marketing as a whole right now. Obviously there's good, bad, and ugly, and I want to be part of the good, not the bad or the ugly. So I was very, very hesitant at the beginning, and that's why I came in as a strategic director, focused only on the exchange. I said, if I'm going to come in, I'm not going to be an owner. I'm not going to be the face. I'll help you guys build the exchange. I'll give you my feedback. I'll, bring some connections that I have, some partners, some liquidity kind of guys, and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I started doing that, and I was pretty happy with the team, with the founders, with the people that are behind the project. And so I decided that I would kind of dip my toe in the water a little bit more each day, each week, each month, and see if it was for me. And I found out that it's a great business model, and I'm excited to be a part of the network because I've never done this before, and I'm learning from gentlemen that are in this room. Hugh Paul's been a huge inspiration to me because I've seen how he works, I've seen his dedication, I've seen the sort of the ability to focus and get stuff done. And
he needs to put more effort in.
Yeah, I mean, if we can just get him to that 100%, we're going to be doing good here. But no, in all seriousness, I've met some of the best people that I've met in business over the last. I'm 51, and so I've been doing this a long time, and I'm blown away by the people that I've met in here. So that's sort of what gave me the confidence to take another step, become the CEO, become the face of the company. But also the technology has been great. In the short time that I've worked here, I've worked at a lot of projects that that we are working really hard to launch a product or working really hard to get something in the market. And here at Aurum, since I've started, we've been able to launch the exchange. We've been able to launch a liquidity staking on the platform. We've been able to launch the successful virtual and physical cards, among other things that we're building. And so I've been really excited about what we're building here at Aurum because we're delivering products, we're delivering on what we say we're going to deliver. So that's a little bit about my background. My future aspirations or goals are to take this to become a fintech unicorn. And so that's really one of the things that resonated with me when I came over. I was recruited by quite a lot of other network marketing companies. Over the last 3 years since I left Binance. Omega Pro had me in there and did this song and dance, and I knew in 1 second that I was never going to work with those guys. Just knew it immediately because things weren't right, and they were trying to build things that they couldn't build. And so anyway, long story short, I'm really happy here, but I think what we have is a unique opportunity to take the intersection of AI, finance, and crypto. So there's 2 kinds of finance. There's the on-chain and the off-chain finance, really, at the end of the day. They're fiat and digital, let's call it. But I think AI is about to throw a monkey wrench into everything we know from a finance standpoint. And I'm just so excited to be sitting here working in this space because I really think it's going to be a generational sort of technology that we're going to just take for granted in our kids and our grandkids and the next generations to come. And so, yeah, I think we have a huge opportunity to build a very large, powerful unit here. But the idea is to get to the unicorn status as soon as possible. So the way I think about that, and it's very simple, they say unicorn status is $1 billion valuation. That's okay. I think we can get there pretty quick. But what I want to do is I want to see 1,000 millionaires being created by my work here. And so that's what I'm focused on, is bringing great tech that allows our team, people like you in this room, to help me get those 1,000 millionaires across the line as soon as possible. And so I'm actually, next year, I'm going to come up with a tracker where I can say, hey, we're at 5, now we're at 7, now we're at 10, now we're at 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, 300, till we get to that 1,000 millionaires. And to me, that's the job that I signed up to do, and that's what I'm focused on. So
awesome.
So really open